Hello everyone, this is Jet from Pen and Journal. Welcome back to my channel. A big thank you for revisiting my channel, and if you're the first time here, please like, subscribe to the channel. So today we are going to do something very interesting. We are going to adjust the tines of this fountain pen on hand, which is the Montblanc Meisterstück 146. This is the vintage 146 with the West Germany stamp on the trim rings. So a little bit of history about this pen is that this pen was purchased online through an auction, and getting the pen, unfortunately, I noticed that the pen leaks. Taking the pen apart, I found out that the main issue is the piston seal, and just using micro mesh to smooth out most of the dings and the scratches on the seal and applying a generous amount of silicone grease, the issue of leakage is being solved. But another issue is that the pen did not write satisfactorily according to my standards. There is some issues with certain strokes of the pen, sideways, especially from left to right and from right to left. So once again, before we start, please take note, before you do any adjustments for the first time, I would strongly advise you to always practice with a few cheap pens first. Always practice for a few times before you do the actual adjusting on your gold pen or a pen that is more precious to you. And for my record, I have actually destroyed at least more than 5 pens while learning the trade. So just a little bit of heads up for you. If you have not done this before, please get some practice sessions in before you do it to something that you treasure. So what I have here is some scrap paper. This is from the Kokuyo paper from campus. This is a very budget-friendly, fountain pen friendly paper that you can get from Daiso. I got this from Daiso. So first thing before you start any tuning of any pen is always write with the pen first. Get a feel of the pen and to see where the issue lies. Is it too scratchy? Is it too dry on certain strokes, etc. and etc. So I noticed that when I write the pen diagonally up, it is pretty dry. Horizontal strokes like this, there's no issues. Downward strokes, no issues. Right, but from to the side downward stroke like this, diagonally, I noticed that there is a form of dryness. Right to left, there's no issues. Diagonally up, no issues. Straight up, no issues. So it seems that the issue is when we go diagonally in this manner and diagonally down in this manner, there is some issues with the pen. So now we are able to identify the issue. Let's take a closer look at the tines using a loupe. So we're going to switch over to the loupe and take a look at the tines itself. If you are unfamiliar with the terminology being used for fountain pens, especially when it comes to the nib terminology, I would suggest that you do some research yourself before coming back to this video. Once again, I think it's quite impossible for me to literally film through the lens of the loupe, so I'll just do my best to describe what I can see through the loupe to you guys, and hopefully that you understand where I'm coming from. So taking a look at the nib itself, I find that the right hand side of the tine, the right hand tine of this nib is actually slightly lower than the one on the left. So there is a bit of a misalignment, and that is the first thing that you always look for. Is before you do any smoothing, any adjustments, always make sure that the tines are perfectly aligned to the best of your ability before you do anything else. So step number one in any form of nib adjustment is always to make sure that the tines of your pen is perfectly aligned, right? If one is slightly up or slightly down, you need to tackle that issue first, regardless of whether you find that the nib feel is smooth. But in this case, I can feel that something is wrong, because as you go from right to left or left to right, there is dryness in the ink flow, and I believe that this tine alignment, or rather this tine misalignment, caused the issue of this ink flow. So do not forget that the way that everyone holds a pen will be a bit different. So the key thing here is also to remember that how you hold the pen will also affect how the pen writes, and it will differ from people to people. Some people will hold it at a steeper angle, some people will hold it at a shallower angle, so on and so forth. So nevertheless, we are going to adjust the alignment first of the tines, and this is what we are going to do. I'm going to use the table with, of course, paper. I'm going to slightly tilt the pen in such a manner and applying a little bit of pressure, not too much, on the tine in such a way that the right hand side of the tine will be being forced to bend slightly upward compared to the left hand side of the tine. Right, you can see in this manner the way I rotate the pen a little bit with pressure downwards, so that the right tine will be forced to be bent slightly upwards, while the left tine there will be no pressure. And the thing about this is to have a little bit of pressure on the right tine upwards so that it can be aligned to the left tine. Once again, when it comes to nib adjustments, always don't go fast, go slow, go light on the tines, keep it simple, keep it small at all times, and always after a certain procedure that you make, always check back with the loupe. So what we're going to do now is put pen on paper to check my work. I still find that the strokes are a little bit on the dry side. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a brush sheet, right? Check out fountain pen brush sheets. So they come in different sizes. I'm using one that is thinnest, that's available in my local fountain pen store. So what I'm going to do with this brush sheet, I'm going to increase the spacing between the tines to increase ink flow, right? So inserting the brush sheet, starting from below the nib area, taking care that you don't scratch the nib like so, right? I'm going to fold the brush sheet in such a manner, and I'm going to just apply pressure downwards to pull the left tine away from the right tine, and then flipping the pen around and folding the brush sheet in another direction. I'm going to pull now the right tine away from the left tine. Make sure you do equally for both tines so that you have the equal spacing, right? And then just putting in the brush sheet once again, I have a feel of whether there is an increased spacing by feeling of the tightness of the brush sheet between the tines. Right, checking the loupe, I found out that the alignment is out again for the tines. The right tine is now below, the left tine and there'll be some adjustment needed again. So instead of using the table method, which I shown you all just now, now I'm just gonna use my finger nails or my fingertips to gently pull the right tine upwards in this manner and giving some pressure on the left tine to pull it, to push it downwards. Right? Hold the position for a few seconds. Well, you will get a lot of inky fingers after a nib adjustment, so this is part and parcel of the process. So let's just enjoy inky fingers. And going back to the loop, let us check. Right, so once you're finished with the alignment, check with the loop. Make sure that the alignment is good before you once again put your pen on paper to test out the ink flow. Right, the ink flow is not too good again, so once again I'm going to repeat the process of putting in the brush sheet between the tines, and once again very carefully, right? So you may need to repeat this process a few times depending on the success of your nib tuning, but once again, do not quicken this process, do not hasten the process. Keep it slow, keep it simple. Always check after a procedure of your nib tuning. So I'm pulling down the left tine, turning around the pen. I'm pulling down on the right tine. Be careful, sometimes the brush sheet may slip out. Reinsert the brush sheet and redo the process. Right, the key thing is apply equal pressure the best you can on both tines, pulling them apart, one for the left, one for the right, and hopefully in this process you're able to increase the spacing between the tines. And the way to see if it's successful is to actually putting the brush sheet in between the tines. You have a feel if it's tight enough, right? This comes from experience. I can't tell it to you. It comes from feeling. Generally, for myself, I'm a person that prefer pen that writes wetter, so I'll know that the feeling of the brush sheet in between the tines should feel a little bit on the looser side. It shouldn't be too tight in between the tines. So it comes from experience. So please, once again, try it out. Explore on your own, get your work, get your hours in to practice and practice and practice, and it all comes from more, and all these things, all these skills comes from more practice. One more time, checking the nib alignment before putting the pen on paper. I'm sorry that I didn't capture the strokes on paper, but I found out that the results is better now. The ink flow is better for the sideways, but still on the dry side, still not satisfactory enough for me. Right, I'm gonna speed up the video for now. As you can see, there's several repetitions of me trying to increase the space between the tines. Right, now testing out again the pen on paper. Right, I found out that right now, diagonally upwards, it is fine, it is wet enough, but going diagonally down is a little bit on the dry side. So now at least we managed to solve the issues of diagonally up, sideways. It's dry, it's wetter now, right? The rest of the directions are all fine. The only issue is diagonally down in this manner is still a little bit on the dry side. So there's still some adjustments still to be needed for this stroke. So make sure you have a lot of paper on hand. You'll be doing a lot of testing out, as you can see. Now, testing it out again. Okay, going up diagonally is fine. Going down diagonally now, it is fine as well. It is wetter than before. Of course, it's not perfect in all situations. I found out that the strokes going straight down is still wetter than compared to the rest, but I can live with it. Right, I'm a person that really loves wet nips. So in this case, I found out that once the tines are aligned, once the wet flow is doing well, I'm going to switch over to my micro mesh to smooth out a little bit on the nips. So these are the micro mesh that I got from online. I will put the link down below on where to get this micro mesh. You can get it at your local store. So you can see that the mesh itself comes with different grades, and the grades are all indicated with the different colors in the chart. So the lower the number, the higher the grid, or the coarser the grid. The higher the number, the finer the grid, or the less coarse it is. So it's always good to go from coarser to finer, right? You don't really need to start from the beginning. You can start from somewhere like 6,000. It all depends on how much you need to remove. In this case, I'm just smoothing out the nips. I think from 6,000 to 8,000 and then to 12,000 is a good way to go, right? Please do not remove too much of the tipping material. In this case, I'm just doing a very fine smoothing of the nip, and I don't want to take out too much away from the tipping material. So I'm just using what do you call this, 3 different grades of micro mesh, and I'm just going to dip them in water, right? Right, do not do this with a dry pad, but wet the pad so that it can reduce the heat generated from the friction itself. Right, preparing the micro mesh of 6,000 grit. Right, make sure that you wet the pad and bring over your pen. We're going to just very gently, do not apply too much pressure, just very gently go through the pen. For myself, I'm going it from right to left in this manner, diagonally, because I know this is where there is the issue of dryness. And I'm just going to do an anti-clockwise and then clockwise circular motions so that I can ensure that every part of the nib as much as possible is being polished. And always remember, once you polish it for a short amount of time, go back to paper, check out the flow, check out the smoothness of the nib on paper. Right, always go slow, do it in small steps, increments. Always check on paper again before you do any further micro meshing on the nib. Right, I'm doing my circulars here, the anti-clockwise and the clockwise. Make sure that the pen is writing well in all directions, in all motions. Okay, looks good so far. The circular motions, the figure eights, right? Anti-clockwise and clockwise circular motions are all very good. The pen flows well diagonally up, diagonally down, and you can see that it's so much better now in all the different directions. And don't forget, this is on just 6000 grit micro mesh. So if this is okay, I can proceed on to a lower grit with a higher number, and now it's on the 8000 micro mesh. Right, you can do circular motions in the anti-clockwise and clockwise directions. Right, the key thing is go slow, go gentle on the micro mesh. Do your figure eights, do your diagonals in this manner because of the original issue of the pen in terms of dryness writing. From time to time, it's good to go back to the loop, check the alignments of the tines to be sure. Check it on paper, right? It is pretty tedious, you can see, but it is worth it. The key thing is always double check your work. So over here, I'm doing my circulars, doing my right to lefts diagonally, and I can see that it is all good. So now we are going on to the last one, the 12,000 grit, the finest grit, to smooth out the nib, to give it that glassy smooth butter not ice feel of nib on paper. So once again, I'm doing my circulars, anti-clockwise, clockwise, my right to left and diagonals, my figure eights, and once I'm done with it, back to the paper to confirm, and I can see that it is good. It is very, very good. Right, getting fresh sheets of paper, we're going to do the final test or practice on paper to make sure that the pen is writing well. Now let's do a wet test. Very good. This is pretty good. Oh, by the way, the ink, it is pilot black. It is simple pilot black. Not the best nib tuning ink I would say that you can use. I would prefer something like Waterman's Serenity Blue that is known for its good ink flow. But for my case, I have pilot black in the pen. That's why I'm using the ink itself. But I would really suggest, if you can, try to tune all your pen with the same ink so that you can have that consistency of wetness, right? Right, now the final tip. One way to truly know if your pen is tuned well is what I call the no pressure writing test. So what I mean is holding the pen at the back of the pen is in such a manner and just using its own weight to put down ink on the paper. So you can see I'm not putting any pressure on the pen whatsoever. I'm just holding the back part of the pen and using the weight of the pen itself, moving the pen in such a manner to apply ink on paper. So if the nib is well tuned enough, you should be able to see ink on paper. So that means the nib is well tuned, well smoothed out in such a way that it can actually apply ink by its own weight. So you can see from here, I'm moving it in a bit of a circular motion, and the pen itself is still laying down ink on paper. So you can see that this is good, right? This is a good, well-tuned pen. But of course, once again, if your pen is too light, it's too plasticky, it's too light, there's not much weight to the pen, it may not be feasible to use this test. But if your pen is something with a bit of heft, like the Montblanc Meisterstück 146, this test is something that you can try it out to see if the nib can actually lay down ink on paper, right? So I hope this gives you the confidence to tune your own nibs. It is not easy. Once again, it comes with practice. It comes with a lot of trial and error, a lot of heartache as well, right? Always practice with cheap pens before you do the real thing with your pens that you actually care about. So I hope that this video blesses you all. As you can see right here, I'm doing the different strokes, different styles of strokes, and this pen is just beautiful, right? The writing is just beautiful and it's a success. Thank you, Lord. And I will end this video with a few writing samples. I don't possess the best handwriting, especially in front of the camera, but I hope that this blesses each and every one of you. So I'm just gonna sign off with some writing samples of this pen after it is being tuned. Please like the video, share it, subscribe to this channel if you haven't, and I see you guys in the next one. Take care, God bless, and goodbye.